Welcome to the St. John Vianney Center podcast Journey to Thrive. My name is Kelly Cuetara. My title is Clinical Dietitian here at St. John Vianney Center. Today I will be talking about Alzheimer's disease. November is National Alzheimer's Month. According to the Alzheimer's Association, there are 6.9 million Americans suffering from Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. Most of us are likely to have been affected either directly or indirectly, knowing either a family member, a friend, or a loved one who suffers from Alzheimer's. With me, it was my mother, who suffered for 15 years, starting in her early 60s, until she passed away at the age of 84. Dementia is a general term for a group of symptoms that affects cognitive abilities, while Alzheimer's is a specific type of dementia accounting for 60 to 70% of cases. And the global economic cost of dementia is expected to reach $2 trillion by 2030, according to the NIH. But the cost cannot be summed up in dollars and cents. It's the loss of memories, a loved one who, while present, cannot fully participate in the joys of life, and eventually the loss of not only cognitive but physical abilities as the disease progresses. There are many risk factors for Alzheimer's, and about 35 to 40% are potentially modifiable. That's according to the 2024 Alzheimer's Association Disease Facts and Figures. This report cites statistics from the Lancet Commission report, the WHO, or World Health Organization, recommendations, and the National Academy of Medicine report. Modifiable risk factors means you can change them if you reduce them. According to Mark Agronin, MD, a leading Alzheimer's disease expert, geriatric psychiatrist, and advocate for purposeful aging, in an article from Alzheimer's Today, he breaks down these risk factors into 3 stages: early life, midlife, and later life. In early life, it's the genetics and education. In midlife, hearing loss, hypertension, and obesity, with obesity being the most common. And in later life, after 65, they are smoking, depression, physical inactivity, social isolation, and diabetes. Many studies, but not all, suggest that consuming a heart-healthy diet may be associated with a reduced risk for dementia and Alzheimer's. In particular, the MIND diet, or Mediterranean Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay, is the most beneficial diet to delay the onset of Alzheimer's. It encourages brain-healthy food groups, including green leafy vegetables, nuts, berries, beans, whole grains, fish, poultry, olive oil, and wine, but no more than 1 glass a day. It's particularly important to avoid sugar and processed foods, which have a detrimental effect on the brain, and which also contributes to obesity, a leading risk factor, and consequently to cardiovascular disease and hypertension. Controlling your risk factors for these diseases through diet and lifestyle may be associated with reducing your risk for developing Alzheimer's and dementia later. Studies have shown that poor oral hygiene also increases bad bacteria and is associated with increased risk for amyloid protein, which is one of the toxic proteins that are associated with Alzheimer's disease. Sleep disorders, such as apnea, deprive the brain of oxygen, creating the risk for brain damage, as do elevated levels of cholesterol. Inadequate sleep also hinders the removal of toxic beta amyloid and other substances from the brain, so getting enough sleep or addressing obstructive sleep apnea is important as a preventive measure. Genetics also plays a role in the risk for Alzheimer's, and one of the most recognized risk factors for late onset Alzheimer's is having 1 or 2 copies of the apolipoprotein E4 or APOE4 gene, and produces a protein involved in cholesterol transport in the body. Because there isn't anything specific to do if you have it, it's best just to adopt a brain-healthy lifestyle. Traumatic brain injuries and repetitive brain injuries are also associated with increased risk, with falls in people aged 75 and older contributing to incidences of traumatic brain injuries, and the highest rates resulting in around 28 hospitalizations and 32% deaths in 2020, according to Alzheimer's Association. The risk of developing dementia in later life can be influenced by health factors present years and decades earlier. So what can you do now to reduce your risk for developing this disease? Keeping your brain stimulated with games, puzzles, volunteer work, adult education, and learning new skills and languages. Reduce stress and create mindfulness with meditation and prayer to help center your brain. Exercise can also help to control factors associated with Alzheimer's, including cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and obesity. It's recommended to get moderate exercise most days of the week, between 30 and 60 minutes, which improves blood flow to the brain so your brain cells can make more connections. Practice good oral hygiene and follow the heart-healthy diet as previously mentioned. But what if you know someone who has Alzheimer's? Actions to proactively manage dementia can help both the person living with dementia and their caregivers. Become educated about the disease. The Alzheimer's Association has a wealth of information and resources to offer in this area. Maintaining strong relationships, doing volunteer work, and keeping a positive attitude towards aging can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's by nearly 40% and increase life by up to 7 years, expert Michael Agronin, MD, says, and reduce overall cardiovascular risk, which also helps reduce your Alzheimer's risk. Identifying and participating in activities that bring purpose and help to connect with others also helps. And planning for the future, including healthcare needs, changes in employment and financial needs, and perhaps seeking the help of professionals like an elder lawyer. From a support perspective, there are many things you can offer others in the way of support. Providing a meal, offering to spend time with someone who suffers from Alzheimer's, and allowing their caregiver an hour or an afternoon of respite time. Offering support in other ways, like doing the household chores they may not have time or the energy to do. When spending time with someone with Alzheimer's, music is especially helpful in managing stress, alleviating pain, and decreasing anxiety. It can stimulate memories, improve communication, creating an outlet for the expression of feelings, and create a calming environment. You don't have to be able to play an instrument to introduce music to someone you love. Today we have smartphones that give us the opportunities to search for music, like using YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, or Pandora. You never know what memory your music or visit may trigger in an individual. Many years into the disease, and long after my mother lost her verbal skills, on one of my weekly visits with my mother, which included my 2 young children, my mother turned to my daughter, then turned to me and said in a clear and distinct voice, "Isn't she beautiful?" I responded, "Yes, Mom, she is." She hadn't spoken in years and never spoke again to me, but that memory is still very poignant in my memory today. Time spent with loved ones, friends, however long or short, can make a world of difference to you and to them. In addition to the Alzheimer's Association, you can reach out to local adult care communities, and hopefully if you are connected through a church community, they can also lend some support in some of the ways we have mentioned. And lastly, you can offer support by keeping your friends, family, or loved ones who suffer from this disease in your prayers. I hope you found this information helpful on Alzheimer's disease. You can tune in to our upcoming podcasts, Journey to Thrive, on our website at sjvcenter.org. Click on resources or anywhere you get your podcasts. Thank you and God bless.